political cartoons, what we don't realize is that at the time, political cartoons were not usually in newspapers. They were simply engravings that were printed and sold. So this would be a play on John Bull making a new batch of ships descend to the lakes, and it alludes to McDonough's victory on Lake Champlain and Perry's victory on Lake Erie. And that's King George in the middle, and they're making new ships, and so it was by William Charles, who did some great caricatures.
Oh, so that's the British making a new batch of ships, huh?
Yep, because they've all been captured.
Right. Political, right.
Yeah, so this is a contemporary 1813 map of the United States, and what's interesting is the artist took advantage of the empty space in the Atlantic Ocean to illustrate the various frigate actions, and 6 weeks after the Battle of Lake Erie, there we see the Battle of Lake Erie right there, right there. In the War of 1812, there were 18 states. We'd added Vermont, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, and Louisiana, but the flag had not been updated, so most flags, including the Star-Spangled Banner, only have 15 stars.
Right. So, right, Ohio, was this 1813 here?
Yes.
So Ohio was already chopped out, ready to go, and they just wanted to kick the people off.
Yeah, the northwest part of Ohio, of course, was Indian Territory. Anything west of Erie and Huron County or the Firelands was still Indian Territory.
Right, and also you can see where the original line went from Chicago through Indiana to Ohio, so you can see where the Ohio-Michigan War was in this one, because, right,
exactly,
like a lot of things that are in Michigan were used to be in Ohio.
This is an interesting story behind this too. The great statue.
So is this one in Perrysburg?
This is the statue that actually is now at Perry's Monument. Okay.
Oh, it is. Yeah, I know where it is. Right.
William Walcott constructed it. It was erected in the town square in Cleveland. And then when they put up the Soldiers and Sailors Monument, they moved it to storage, and then they moved it to Wade Park, and then when they built the Toledo or the Cleveland Museum of Art, they moved it again, and then they moved it to Gordon Park, and then it was deteriorating, so they cast it in bronze and gave it to Perrysburg, and then they moved it later to Huntington Park, and then Perrysburg cast it in bronze and gave it to the National Park Service for display at Put-in Bay, which is where it is today.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. So what do we have over here?
Well, this is very interesting. The Hayes the Hayes Library it's just a fabulous collection, and this material belongs to the Hayes, and Dr. James Webb, Lucy Webb Hayes, Rutherford Hayes' wife, the father was in William Garrard's company of light dragoons known as the Bourbon Blues, and the Bourbon Blues, the 2nd Regiment, was with Harrison stationed at Fort Seneca, and were of course involved in the Ball's battle with the Indians just south of here, and proceeded on into Canada after the siege of Fort Stephenson. This is his rifle, his spurs, and so it's ironic that his daughter would eventually be living here. This letter is the letter reporting on the siege of Fort Stephenson from George Croghan. And here we have various cannonballs from Fort Stephenson and a very rare dragoon officer's helmet from the War of 1812. All from the Hayes.
It's got a horse. Looks like it's got a horse on it.
Oh yeah, that's very few survive. They're very, very rare.
Horse and a sword.
Yep. And then the last thing.
Okay, what do we got next?
Last thing here. This is very interesting. we have, there are two Jarvis portraits of George Croghan, the victor at Fort Stephenson. One is at Locust Grove in Louisville, Kentucky, his boyhood home. This is a copy of a lost portrait by J.H. Witt, done in the 1870s. If you look at the correspondence of President Hayes and of his son Webb Hayes, who was a Congressional Medal of Honor winner and who really set up the museum here, they were both very interested in George Croghan and the siege of Fort Stephenson. President Hayes, very interested in history. Croghan was, of course, a great hero. He felt after the war that William Henry Harrison had not given him the credit he deserved, and he went on in a series of letters which were published to attack William Henry Harrison. Basically said he had hung him out to dry and he had saved his neck, and was very, very bad blood. He eventually, in 1814, was assigned to the expedition to seize Fort Mackinac back from the British and was defeated. And unfortunately, after the war, he became an alcoholic, attempted suicide. His wife got divorce papers, and he was Inspector General of the Army for many years, but unfortunately...
The man who could be president.
A man who was my boyhood hero, had rather an unfortunate post-war experience.
So what do we have here?
This is simply, these are just copies of the...
Oh, the copies of the medal that we have over here.
In 1835, Congress commissioned a medal in honor of Harrison. After the Battle of Siege of Fort Stephenson, Croghan was given a sword by the ladies of Chillicothe, who supposedly, and it's in a lot of the literature, one wonders, gave Harrison a petticoat because he had not come to Croghan's aid.
Ooh. So do you think we have most of it here?
I think we're done.
Do you have anything else you think we've forgotten along the way?
No, I think we're pretty
good. Good.
No, I'm happy to take you down, and I think you should. We should go down to, and I